Hello and welcome to this video on factoring, specifically simple trinomial factoring. So factoring is a concept that tends to give students a little bit of trouble. It's generally introduced in grade 10, but it is a very useful mathematical technique that is important into grade 11, 12, and even into university mathematics. You will often need to utilize factoring. So there are several different types of factoring. Today I'm going to be going over simple trinomial factoring. And simple trinomial factoring applies to equations of this form. So we'll have a quadratic equation, and the simple part refers to the fact that the coefficient in front of the x squared, so the number that appears in front of the x squared, is a 1, or more simply put, you don't see a coefficient there. So if your coefficient in front of the x squared is a 1, or you don't see a coefficient in front of the x squared, that means that this is a simple trinomial. And it has its own slightly different steps to take in order to factor than if there was actually a number there in front of the x squared. So what you need to look at are the numbers in front of the x. We usually label that as b. And then the constant number, so the number that's by itself without any x's, we usually label that as c. And what you need to do with those two numbers is off to the side, you need to write a little pattern like this. So something times something is equal to b. So in this case, is equal to c. So in this case, we're going to write a 6, and then the same something plus the same something else should equal b. So in this case, 5. So this is going to be c, and this is going to be b. And you really need to make sure that the b is the number in front of the x, and the c is the number that is by itself, the constant term. And then this is the part that kind of gives a lot of people a little bit of grief because they're not really sure how to go about finding two numbers that multiply to 6 and add to 5. These numbers are quite small, but when they get bigger, it can be harder. So what I recommend is to just start off with the first equation and think to yourself, well, how can I get two numbers that multiply to 6? Start with the number 1 and say, how can I multiply 1 to get to 6? Well, that's pretty easy. We just multiply by 6, right? So 1 times 6, that equals 6. Then we'll go to 2. 2 times 3, that equals 6 as well. And then, of course, we can have 3 times 2 and 6 times 1. And you just keep going up in numbers like that until you kind of finish off the pattern. So, for example, with 4 and 5, we skip those because there's no way to multiply 4 or 5 to get to 6, right? And then all you need to do is just look at these pairs of numbers and see which, sets add up to 5. So 1 and 6 and 6 and 1 obviously don't add to 5, but 2 and 3 and 3 and 2 do. And it doesn't really matter which of these you use. Okay, they both add up to 5. So I'm just going to say that my numbers here are 2 and 3. And then you're basically done. So for simple trinomial factoring, all you need to do is write that y equals, then you're going to have two brackets, and you're going to write an x inside both of those brackets, and then you're simply going to write next to each x one of the numbers. So for the first one, I'll say plus 2, and for the second one, I'll say plus 3. So y equals x squared plus 5x plus 6 can be factored as x plus 2 times x plus 3. And that's it. As I said, if you have a number out in front of your x squared term that is not 1, then we need to use a slightly different process. So if you liked this video or you found it helpful, please feel free to go ahead and share it with your friends and family, and I am available for personal one-on-one tutoring if that is something that is of interest to you as well. Have a great day. Bye-bye.